Lesson 12.5 and Lesson 12.6, dividing polynomials and adding, subtracting simple rational expressions. So, how do we divide two functions? Well, the better question to ask is, how do we divide two numbers? So I say, what's 121 divided by 7? You would say, well, that means 7 into 121. 7 goes in once, actually 10 times. It's over the 10 category. So we do that. Subtract down, 51. And notice it looks positive, but then we change the sign to negative. And then it goes in there 7 times. We get 2. And the remainder is actually written differently. So we would say the whole answer is 17 and 2/7. So that's a long way to do it. And we can do the same thing for polynomials. So divide by 2x. And we're going to do this one two different ways. So if you're already yelling, hey, I know a better way to do it, that's fine. We'll do it that way in a minute. What times 2 is 4? 2. And what times x is x to the third? X squared. So we put it above the x squared. And if that was confusing, just think about it now. We got to multiply. 2 times 2 is, 4. X squared times x is x to the third. Change the sign. We're left with 8x squared plus 10x. What times 2 is 8? 4. What times x is x squared? X. 4 times 2 is 8. X times x is x squared. Change the sign. And I believe 5 will finish off for us. 5 times 2 is 10. And x. Change the sign. So that's what we get. Now, if we have a simple monomial like 2x, the smarter move to play would be just to divide each one. Directly. 2x squared plus 5, which is the same answer we got here. So why did I show you the first way, since the second way is obviously much easier? Well, that's what we have to do down here. Divide by x minus 1. Don't worry about the minus 1. That's just going to come along for the ride. Just focus on the x. How many x's go into x squared? One of them. X times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. Change the signs. Because remember, we're subtracting. They cancel. They better had, otherwise you messed up. 3x minus 3. What times x is 3x? Positive 3. 3x minus 3. Change the signs. Beautiful. No remainder. So, x squared plus 2x minus 3 over x minus 1 equals x plus 3. If you're smart, you noticed that, like we did last unit, this factors. We're left with x plus 3. So again, you might say, well, why bother doing this whole long division thing that looks like it's very challenging and I don't quite understand it? And, well, it's not always going to be perfect. If it factors clean, go ahead and do it, but it might not. So there's a few tricks to watch out for. Here's the first one. I hope you're saying to yourself, well, that's not in order, because it does need to be in order. So does that. So we do this. And then we go. What times y is y squared? Y. Y times y is y squared. Y times 2 is 2y. Change the signs. Three times y is 3y. 3 times 2 is 6. Finally, one that does not work perfectly, and we get a remainder of -2. So our answer is, now let's write it all out. Y squared plus 5y plus 4 divided by y plus 2 is y plus 3. Plus, like we showed you a long time before up top, my remainder over my divisor. That's the whole thing. Now this is called long division. It gets used a lot in Algebra 2. This is just an introduction. You won't have to do much, if any at all. You should be aware of where things come from, and also that you can do problems different ways. Like up here, you can just factor, but you can also do long division. It works either way. Here's the last trick I have in the bag. See if you recognize it before it happens. We have 4m squared plus 13. Why'd I leave a gap? Because we have no m. So let's write it in, 0m. So it might pop up. Put this one in order. There we go. Just look for the front. What times 2m is 4m squared? I believe 2m will work, but I got to check. 2 times 2 is 4. M times m is m squared. Minus 2m. Subtract down, they cancel. They better, otherwise we screwed up. Looks to me like 1 will work. 1 times 2m is 2m. 1 times -1 is -1. Remainder 14. So we get 4m squared plus 13 divided by 2m minus 1 equals 2m plus 1 plus my remainder over my divisor. Tricky stuff. Definitely going to need to practice this. Make sure we review before we do it in class. Simpler stuff. Stuff that'll make complete sense to you. How do we add 2/5 plus 1/5? Well, we already have a common denominator, so we just add the top, write it over the bottom. How about 2/3 plus 4/5? Well, we don't have a common denominator, so we'd multiply by 5 over 5. Multiply by 3 over 3. Rewrite as 10 over 15 plus 12 over 15 to make sure we didn't mess up. And finish off. This will be the next lesson. It's very tricky when you do it with polynomials. For now, I'll make your life nice and easy. You have common denominators and everything. So, same thing with the rational expressions, what we just did. Add them. 12 over 3x. Done. Not really. Always reduce. Still not done. Excluded values. And now we're done. Okay. So, same thing here when we're subtracting. Except that we have to distribute the negative. So 3x minus x plus 5 all over x minus 1. 3x minus x minus 5. 2x minus 5 over x minus 1. And that's done. As long as x doesn't equal 1. Not too bad. Definitely mess people up the negative. I always get about 20% of the class with that. And this looks great, except, wait a minute, there's no common denominator. What do I do? Well, this is called factoring out a negative. I'm going to leave the left side the same. I'm going to put the negative up front, up top. And then I'm going to look at the bottom and say, you know what? if I factored out a -1, I would get that. So this is the same as that. And in case you don't believe me, just FOIL it out. -1 times -1 is 1. -1 times x is -x. So it's the same thing. Why would I do that? Now I have a common denominator. These cancel. And we're left with x minus 1. See if anything happens here. Could factor a 2 out, but it's not really going to do anything for me, so I'll just leave it. X cannot equal 1. Fair amount of tricky stuff here, especially on the dividing. So make sure you practice this a lot. Make sure you have it locked and loaded. Good luck.